What's up, guys? Welcome to Q&A Mondays. I'm Thad Barnette. I have the pleasure of having Chris from Edge Façade Restoration here. Chris, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, listen, we're talking about repainting metal roofs in this series, and we get questions like this all the time. We did a video several years ago, but you guys do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
On a daily basis. So let's talk about first, how do you know when it's the right time to repaint your metal roof versus actually just replacing it?
Sure. I think the service life available on a metal roof system is 30, 40, 50 years, right? So if you're within that window of serviceability, there's great value in consideration to do a repaint versus doing a replacement, because you're not quite ready yet, right? You don't need to make that level of investment to renew the asset when you can actually just extend the service life by providing a new protective coating system on the roofing features.
I think it's important to note that not all metal roofs are created equal. If we're looking at an exposed fastener system versus a standing seam system, you have to keep those life cycles in mind because they are different.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to take that a point further is, depending on the geographical location of a roof, right? Exposure to saltwater elements, coastal installations can accelerate the weathering of a roof. It can accelerate the amount of corrosion or rust you're gonna have. Also, geographical locations that have a lot of sun exposure can be detrimental in the long term to the roof coating system just because of the UV attack coming from the sun. So in understanding when to make a replacement versus, if a repaint's still an option, it's a good time to consider how long the roof's been installed for, and then take a look at what level of extension of service life do you want? Because there's, as we'll talk about later, I think, is there's a lot of different coating systems out there. There's sort of a good, better, best. And so you make the decision on how much time you want to, add to the service of the roof itself.
A lot of questions we get are, is there surface rust? Does that matter? Can I just paint over it? Do I need to make some kind of adjustment there? Is that going to affect my decision on replacement or repainting?
So when we look at a roof, we look at it holistically from an inspection standpoint. We want to get on the roof, identify the conditions, and see what needs to be done. And to answer one part of that question, if you have surface rust, if you have oxidation, if you have things that are basically affecting the substrate, they have to be addressed. They can't be covered up, because if you do, you're just going to exacerbate the problem. So you're temporarily covering it up while your rust is still there, active. So there's a whole level of surface cleaning, surface preparation that needs to be a part of a renewal process when you're going to think about putting an architectural coating system onto an existing rooftop.
And in the next video, we're going to talk about, can a homeowner DIY, repaint their metal roof? But even before that becomes a consideration, is it important for a homeowner to get a professional to do the inspection first, or can they make that determination themselves whether they need a replacement or not?
Yeah, I think it depends on the level of comfort for the homeowner, right? How technically savvy are they in regards to roofing materials, architectural metals, coating systems? We find that both in the residential and commercial segment, people really want someone with professional experience to take a look at it. And even when it comes to contractor selection, it's critical that, especially in a roof repaint, that it's the consideration is for a commercial painter that has significant experience and can provide actual projects and recommendations and references of actually performing that work the right way.
And when we talk about repainting versus replacement, what kind of cost considerations are there?
Yeah, I mean, from the repaint side, there are some considerations on how the price per square foot changes, but on average, it's between $4 and $8 a square foot to do a repaint. The difference in that price range is considerations such as the pitch of the roofs, how difficult the access can be, as well as the selected coating system. Again, if we're going to decide on a coating system, are we in a good, better, best? Because the price per gallon or the price per square foot changes due to those factors.
Okay, so if we're talking $4 to $8 per square foot, is that fully installed, completed system?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Which includes your labor and your access and everything you need to make that system renewed.
Okay, and if you're looking for a new roof, obviously you're going to have to tear off the current roof. inspect the deck. You've got full installation, metal, roll forming, the whole 9 yards for that.
Yeah, exactly. And it goes back to if the roof hasn't been up or you don't think it's past its service life yet from what your reasonable expectation was when it was installed, then there's great consideration to say there's a renewal here, so we like to call it, rather than a rip-off and a replace. So,
if a roof is nearing the end of its service life, but it's not quite there, and someone gets a renewal done, is that going to extend its life further, or is that still just going to be the end of its service life at the original time?
It's a good question. It again goes back to what coating system selected and the level of technical surface preparation that's done. Right, you can install a coating system on a roof and make it last 3 more years. You can install a coating system on a roof and make it last 10, 20 more years, even if the roof itself is at the end of its service life, because the new protective coating system is going to protect that substrate from corrosion and rust and all the elements of weather that it originally was intended to do. And so we can talk further probably about some of these coating systems and the difference between them, but it really is about selection of material and then ultimately the installation, how it's done and sometimes who it's done by, if it's done right.
One of the reasons why homeowners repaint the roofs is also they purchase a new house or they do a remodel, new siding, something like that, and they want a different color.
Yep.
So does it matter the color change? Is there a primer that needs to be put on? Is there some kind of adjustment there?
Yeah. There's there's different considerations and variables that do exist there. I guess if I gave an example of it, someone bought a new roof and 5 years later, they decided they want a color change. They just had a black roof and now they want a bronze roof or whatever that looks like. If the roof's in great condition, it makes it easier to do the new installation, right? The level of surface preparation, maybe the rust or corrosion mitigation is required. So you have an easier application. But at the same time, if you have a newer roof, and there's a new coating system on it, there's a level of surface preparation that still needs to take place different than an aged roof. And what I mean by that is if you have good adhered coatings that are done in the factory, they have a lot of friction resistance and ability to repel water. What that means is you need to create a surface profile or a bite for the new coating system to be able to properly adhere to the new system. Usually that requires a primer, but it also requires a level of surface preparation that can be referred to as a sanding technique or even sometimes an aggregate blast to make that happen the right way. So it's very possible and actually quite common to change the color. And it's actually nice to know that the substrate roof material is not degraded yet. I mean, it hasn't been exposed to the elements, hasn't had the rust, hasn't had the corrosion exposure.
Let's talk about warranties. Because when you're replacing your roof, you're going to get that original paint warranty. When you're repainting it, that's going to get affected.
Whenever you touch a roof, no matter what you're going to do to it, especially if you're going to apply a coating system, the manufacturer's paint warranty or the coating warranty would be void. Great, because you're actually disturbing the surface and changing it. It doesn't mean that other elements of the installation warranty aren't there, because those all should be. That's an install, that's a weatherability, weather tightness concern. So when that warranty that you've potentially ruptured, which typically your coating warranty is out of date and you've gone past the service life and now you're ready for a renewal in a coating system. But if you're within that window, that warranty is now void. However, the coating manufacturers making these high-end architectural coating systems that are installed in the field offer warranties from 5 up to 15 years, depending on the selection of that system.
Okay, so you might have a new warranty that could be added on.
Exactly. So again, extending that service life of the roof also gives you a guarantee of a warranty that the coating system is going to do several things. Protect the substrate, right? Again, from the elements such as moisture, water, and air, which are all the ultimate drivers of rust and corrosion. And then it's also going to prohibit UV attack. And what that means is within those warranty periods, the coating system is not going to chalk and fade to a certain degree, which we call delta. So the color's not going to change noticeably by the eye by a certain degree, and then it's going to adhere to the substrate. Even a level of rust that some people might consider unsalvageable often is. And there's just another level, again, of surface prep that's required to remediate that rust, which could be done in aggregate blasting, and then quickly cover the substrate so that it no longer has exposure to the elements and continues to degrade. So there's always an ability to consider an extension of the service life through coating. It's just analyze the condition first, understand what your needs and desire are for the extended service life, and then you can have the ability to make the right coating selection, and then ultimately, the installer.
Yeah, and at that point, it's really important to have that professional opinion once you get to those kind of areas.
Yeah, one thing I always like to tell people is when considering the repaint of a metal roof, it's not the same as selection of repainting your exterior house, right?
Yeah.
Exterior house is a residential contractor. They're very good at it. They've got their, in and out techniques to get people there. And it's done in maybe every 5 years, depending where you live geographically, you redo that work. The roof, you don't want that to happen, right? We're dealing with an architectural metal versus the exterior of, stucco, block, whatever that is. It's a very different beast. And so you have to look and consider a professional commercial contractor to make those installs because they're different people.
Got it.
You may have residential contractors that would say they can do that work, but to do it the right way, there's a level of technical expertise that is involved with that.
What haven't we covered in regards to replacing versus repainting?
I think there's considerations that have to start with the safety of access, right? You start with safety and understand, okay, who am I letting up my roof and how safe are they going to be in doing that, right? There's a major thought process that needs to go into how are they going to access this work and how are they going to do it safely. And that's just, for everyone's protection along the way. And then past that, there has to be consideration in, how to clean and the cleanliness of the roof itself. And then you move to surface preparation and then ultimately, like I said earlier, coating selection. So
tell me a little bit about your company. Where can people find you?
Yeah, that's great. So Edge Façade Restoration is a company that does nationwide work. You can find us at edgearc.com/facade. We're happy to look at anyone's roofs or other architectural metals that have consideration for an extension of the service life. And it can also be found on LinkedIn as well.
All right, Chris, well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And stay tuned for the next video. We're gonna talk about can a homeowner repaint their own metal roof DIY and talk about how to do that. If you have any questions, please comment down below. We'd love to answer them. As always, I'm Thad Barnette and we'll catch you next time.